I love this so much. I love what I'm about to share with you so much you have no idea. Sometimes I'm more right than even I realize. So the other day on the show, I did this segment, U.S. and Venezuela near peace deal. And of course, this has to do with the fact that now we need oil. Venezuela has oil. So the U.S. is meeting with Venezuela and trying to work out some sort of deal. Saudi Arabia is not complying with us and not giving us more oil that we need. We just cut off 8% of the U.S. market because we banned Russian oil and natural gas from coming into the country. So after the 2-hour meeting, Maduro released 2 American prisoners. And I believe there were 9 there in total. So now there's 7 there. And in the segment, I made a little bit of a prediction. I said the following. Turns out, when their oil is needed, all of a sudden, and by the way, you're going to see the language around Venezuela change if we do make a deal with them. If we do make a deal with them, the language around them will change. You'll still have the neocons like Marco Rubio act like, this is crazy, this is insane. But you will have, there will no longer be the descriptions of like an authoritarian tyrant who's hell-bent on domination of his region. Like, they'll all of a sudden, they'll neutralize the language. They'll neutralize the language. Because as long as you're a partner with the U.S., you can sort of do whatever you want. All right, so there you go. That was the prediction. I don't know if this was the exact same day or if it was a day later, but then this happened. Alan McLeod says, like clockwork, just hours after the U.S. signals it needs to buy oil from Venezuela again, Bloomberg has decided that Venezuela is no longer a socialist country. So in Bloomberg politics, Venezuelan migrants are coming home as Maduro embraces capitalism. An unlikely economic rebound is luring back some of the 6 million who fled. Okay, guys, understand, this is not a coincidence. This is exactly what I was talking about. So as soon as Maduro, to one extent or another, starts to play ball with the West, then any negatives about him are totally overlooked, and then we start to embrace the positives to build this case that, he's not really all that bad. But when he's not playing ball with the West, he's a horrendous dictator and authoritarian, and he's bloodthirsty, and he's et cetera, et cetera. You know the deal. So anyway, I was proven more correct than even I knew. Because I said there, like, I assume that, like, after some sort of a deal is made, then the media would start neutralizing the language and the U.S. government would start neutralizing the language. But it turns out it's either before a deal was made or the deal is secret, and so now we're getting the neutralized language. I mean, just the fact that he released 2 prisoners and he had a 2-hour conversation where it was amicable with the U.S., that alone is now leading to the U.S. to neutralize the language and act like he's not all that bad because now he's open to Western interests. So, I mean, what else can you say about it? This is, like, immediately snapped into place. So, and listen, on the one hand, I'm bragging here, but on the other hand, it's like, this is not rocket science. It's the most obvious thing in the world to acknowledge that as long as you play ball with the West, we pretend like you mean well, you're a good actor on the world stage, and we overlook all your negatives. I mean, Saudi Arabia has been one of our top allies for decades. This is like a deeply authoritarian and theocratic country that beheads people in the public square for witchcraft and sorcery and drug smuggling and apostasy. If that was an official enemy state of the U.S., we would highlight those things relentlessly and talk about, hey, maybe we need to do regime change there. But since they've been our ally for so long, it was just overlooked, all the negative things. And Venezuela and Maduro, who's not nearly as bad as, Saudi Arabia, it was portrayed like Maduro was way worse. Well, now it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm curious what happens in regards to Saudi Arabia because they've been our ally for so long. We're dependent on them in many respects, and they're dependent on us. But if MBS keeps misbehaving, then my guess is the language around Saudi Arabia is going to change, and now they're going to start to highlight more of the negatives, and you'll have the U.S. relationship with them fray. And again, you're looking at potentially some sort of gigantic global realignment that might happen. But if that does happen, we're in the early stages of it, that's for sure. So that is a lot of things we need to fall into place before we get to that point. But anyway, there you have it. It took one day for my prediction on Venezuela to come true. Even I'm shocked at how quickly everything fell into place.